The accessories and gadgets by the Artifacts mod are some of the most essential items every player needs. From unlimited food, over no fall damage boots, to night vision goggles. However, these artifacts only drop from mimics, which are difficult to find. But I will show you two versions on how to farm them. One with Evilcraft and one which also needs the hostile neural network. If you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And with that, let's begin. Firstly, we are going to cover the two main resources we're going to need: Dark Gems and Blood. Dark Gems are newly added gems that can be mined with an iron pickaxe, and they are affected by fortune. They drop 4 to 5 gems without fortune and up to 8 gems, as well as 1 to 4 crushed dark gems with fortune free. Dark gems can be found at best between the Y levels of 59 and 0. As of Automods 9 version 0.2.3, there is no natural generating deep slate dark ore and no dark ore at all in the mining dimension. Next, Blood. Let's cover the basics first. At the beginning, you will need to make yourself a blood extractor, which collects blood while you kill mobs. The amount of blood is connected to the max health of a mob. For instance, a warden can give you about 15,000 millibuckets of blood. When you've got 6,000 blood, we can get to the next step, making a blood infusion core. We will need a dark power gem and 8 hardened blood shards. To make your first dark power gem, make a hole fitting 5 blocks of blood, like this cross shape, and then throw in 1 dark gem. Hardened blood gets produced by leaving blood in the open, and when then broken with a flint and steel, it drops as shards. However, I prefer to use the drying basin from Integrated Dynamics, since it's cheap, transforms the blood faster, and it allows us to get the maximum of 9 shards when we burn the block in the furnace. Out of these materials, we can now make the blood infusion core, which we need to make our blood infuser. This block not only allows us to improve our blood making approaches, but is also essential in making one of the mimic farms. The blood infuser UI consists out of an upgrade area, or how it's called in the mod, promises, and a space for you to input blood through items like the blood extractor. And then there's the area for infusing items with your blood. The first thing I would infuse is a dead bush, since through that we will get a undead sapling. These undead saplings turn into trees which will rain down blood. This produces bloodstains that can be collected with a sanguinary pedestal. To store the blood, I would recommend to use the tanks from mob grinding utensils. The base tank stores 32,000 millibuckets and only costs 4 iron and some glass. And the jumbo tank, which can store an enormous 1 million millibuckets, only costs 20 iron in total. For blood transportation, you can either use the pipes from the pipes mod, or you can right click the tank with the blood infuser in your hand to fill it up as well. Now, with the basic resources covered, let's get to the mimic. We need 3 items to capture and farm the mimic. Firstly, we need a box of eternal closure to store the spirit of the mimic. This box can be either crafted or found inside of dungeon chests. Secondly, we need a vengeance ring, which allows us to see the vengeance spirit of the mimic once we have defeated it. Lastly, we need a vengeance focus, which allows us to pull the mimic spirit inside the box of the eternal closure. With all of this prepared, we only need to find ourselves a mimic. Mimics can be found in abandoned campsites inside of caves. I would recommend to look for very big caves with lots of areas for our campsites to spawn. For that, you should use the Nature's Compass and check for either deep, infested or mental caves. Before you start fighting the mimic, place down your eternal box as close as possible next to the mimic. After you killed it, make sure that you don't get in contact with the spirit and use the vengeance focus to pull the mimic spirit into the box. Congrats! With that, we have everything we need to farm our mimic. With the basics covered, let me give you a quick rundown for the two approaches. Option A is using a spirit furnace, meaning it's based purely on the Evilcraft mod and only needs a single multi-block to work. Option B makes use of the Spirit Reanimator in combination with the hostile neural network mod, which requires a solid energy setup and needs more manual preparation. However, the benefit is that when you achieve it, you can freely choose the artifact you want, and it is faster and cheaper in the long run. Let's first cover the Spirit Furnace. The Spirit Furnace is made out of dark blood bricks, which can only be made after we upgrade our blood infuser. There are 3 stages of upgrades which are called Promises of Tenacity, and we need to reach Promise of Tenacity Tier 2. For that, we first need to make a bowl for our promises, and then we add some crushed dark gems. We then put this inside the blood infuser to get a bowl of promises Tier 0. Additionally, we will need to put a iron block inside the blood infuser to get a iron promise acceptor. With these 2 items and a spider eye, we can craft the Promise of Tenacity Tier 1, which we will add directly in its upgrade slot to unlock new recipes. Now we repeat the bowl part, but now instead of getting a Tier 0 bowl, we will get a Tier 1 bowl. Also, instead of an iron block, we will instead infuse a gold block to get our promise acceptor. Now, by combining these with an ender pearl, we will get the Promise of Tenacity Tier 2. With that, we can now craft our dark blood bricks. The amount of bricks is dependent on the size of the mob we want to farm. And since our mimic is just 1 by 1, our whole furnace only needs to be 3 by 3 by 3. That way, we only need 29 dark blood bricks in total. To craft dark blood bricks, you need to infuse dark bricks, which are made out of stone bricks and a block of dark gems. Lastly, we need to make the Spirit Furnace block itself, which is made out of a blood infusion core and dark blood bricks, both items we have covered already. About the placement, we will make our 3 by 3 by 3 box, leaving the center block empty and placing our Spirit Furnace block at one of the bottom corners of our furnace, since that way we can easily import the blood with pipes and export the items at the bottom. Now we just connect our blood cells and our box with the mimic and the artifacts will get produced. If you're interested in speeding up this process, you can add a Promise of Tenacity to open up 2 upgrade slots. In these you can then add up to 4 Promises of Velocity, which will speed up the production, and up to 4 Promises of Efficiency, which reduce the blood amount from 15,000 millibuckets per artifact to 5,000. Both of these can be crafted with a bowl of promises Tier 1, an iron promise acceptor, and then either a redstone block or lapis lazuli block. Now, let's talk about option B with the Spirit Reanimator and the hostile neural network. The Spirit Reanimator is quite easy to make and just requires some iron, stone and one of the blood infusion cores we made previously. The UI on the left is mostly the same as the blood infuser and has space for upgrades and the blood input. On the right there are 3 slots, one for our box with the mimic inside, one for normal chicken eggs, and one for our spawn egg, which we will get. However, after we create one spawn egg, the box will be emptied, but that won't be a problem for us since we will actually use the hostile neural network for the farming itself. To give a quick idea on how the hostile neural network works, it allows you to create data models, which contain the information about a mob. Each mob killed will add more data to its respective model, and if you reach a certain point, you will be able to generate loot based on these data models. Now, let's get started. First, we will need a model framework. This item is used to build a data model of a mob. For that, you just need to right-click with the item in hand on the mob you want to farm, in our case, a mimic. Next, we will need a deep learner in which we can place our mimic data model to collect data for it. The deep learner can be added to our Curious tab, which allows us to see constantly in the top left corner how many mimics we still need to kill. Each kill will give us 1 data point, and we will need a minimum of 30 to start farming the mimic. Now let's get to the data collection process. For that, I would recommend you to build a small enclosure like this with 2 spots, one for our box of eternal closure and one for our mimic. Before you kill the mimic, make sure that you have both the vengeance ring and the vengeance focus in your inventory to be ready to catch the spirit. Now we spawn the mimic and kill it right afterwards. We captured soul in the box with the vengeance focus and break the box with a pickaxe. Then we place it inside the Spirit Reanimator to make a new spawn egg. For this process we have now 1 more data point and still our original mimic. Now we just repeat this process until we reach at least the basic tier of the mimic. And we did it! With our data model ready, let's make some loot. First we need to make a simulation chamber. This block needs 3 things to work. 1. A data model which is at least the basic tier, like our mimic, some prediction matrix which can be crafted, as well as some energy. There are 2 items we will get out of this process. The first one is the generalized ender prediction, which can be used to make some ender recipes. But, more importantly, we will get the mimic prediction. The likelihood of getting a mimic prediction is shown here and starts off at 5% through our basic tier. However, the model trains itself while we try to produce the mimic predictions, meaning the whole process will get more and more efficient over time. Next, we need to build a loot fabricator. This block needs an energy source as well as some kind of prediction to work. And when we add our mimic prediction, we get 4 full pages of possible loot. And we just click on one and we will get it using up the prediction in the process. If we want to switch the loot, we can either click on another item or click on the preview to clear the selection. And with that, you have all the knowledge you need to fully equip yourself with artifacts. If you're interested in other mob farms which work even more efficiently for some specific mobs, check out my wannabe guide or my Drigme guide. And with that, I wish you all an amazing day.